Welcome back to another video. I am Ramona, and today's topic is going to be about Djinns. Found a couple of interesting stories, so let's just get right into it and hope you guys enjoy it. A terrifying encounter while in Iraq. I was a sergeant in the U.S. Army, and ETSing getting out from the military when President Bush ordered more troops into Iraq in 2003. I had just returned home to Austin, Texas, when I was summoned into my local National Guard unit at Cape Mabry and told that I was being recalled to the Army, but the unit was already tasked out to deploy to Iraq. I was not part of the unit yet, so the commander offered to give me a waiver to deploy with a government contractor, Halliburton, in Houston. I knew that I would make more money as a contractor, so I took the offer. Not long after arriving in Kuwait at Camp Doha, I began working with the operations team overseeing logistics affairs. We would oversee the daily convoy of supply between Kuwait and Baghdad, a route riddled with IED incidents, small arms skirmishes, and almost constant breakdowns of Army and civilian vehicles. Because I was a SAW gunner in the 1st Infantry Division while on active duty and was still technically in the Guard, I was often in the convoys manning a mounted weapon that accompanied the mostly civilian convoys. During these runs, we had a few strange encounters in an area south of Baghdad, known then as Camp Babylon. Occupied by French troops, but then designated an archaeological site for obvious reasons, Camp Babylon was set up in the area that was said to be originally inhabited by the famous Tower of Babel. Indeed, there were ruins there that did look like a massive structure once stood at the spot. I had two strange incidences happen to me there while passing through there. The first incident seems a bit benign, but sets the mood for the second. We were passing through Camp Babylon in the afternoon one day when our convoy took small arms fire. The SOP at the time, standard operating procedure, was to stop the convoy and return fire. This was because in the past such incidences ended up being a lone gunman attempting to scare the convoy into running into an IED on the road. Because of this, the SOP changed to stop the convoy, dismount, and return fire. While engineers looked for explosive devices on the road, we scanned the horizon for enemy. Nothing. They most likely fled immediately. However, the ruins around Camp Babylon were alive with shadow figures that seemed to move about the area. Several times we would spot the figures, but they would immediately disappear. A contractor laying beside me with his weapon commented, "How odd that we are in the shadow of Babel, fighting the supernatural." I didn't respond, but I knew he was a 32nd degree Mason who was really into the arcane aspects of Babylon, etc. I didn't feel at the time that much that was supernatural, but and certainly did see the shadowy and mostly bizarrely small figures dart around the structures. Once the road was deemed clear, we continued on to Baghdad. The second incident occurred about a month later. At this point, the weather in southern Iraq and Kuwait had turned quite cold at night. During this encounter, we had just completed the supply run to Baghdad and were returning back to Camp Doha in Kuwait when a vehicle in our convoy broke down. Once again, we found ourselves right at Camp Babylon. While the Army mechanics took a look at the vehicle, the rest of us took up fighting positions around the area. Strange things began to occur. It started with a strange light bobbing in the desert. Thinking it was a person with a flashlight, we used night vision goggles to watch. It was simply a glowing ball of light moving toward a set of ruins. After initial contact with the light, a few of us had moved forward away from the convoy to see what the source was. After seeing it was self-contained and not a person, we were a bit alarmed. Then I heard a sound that I will never forget. A long wailing began from one of the ruined structures and foundations not far away. It sounded like a woman in agony, mixed with loneliness. On and on the sounds went, and we huddled in the cold and dark, wondering what the hell we were listening to. With our night vision goggles equipped, we used our flashlights to spotlight the ruins. If you've ever done this, you will know what a normal flashlight with an NVG's looks like, a massive beam of light. We scoured the area, and no source of the wails or the ball of light were seen. From this time, we were told via radio that the vehicle was repaired and ready to roll, so we decided to return to the convoy. I was slinging my saw over my shoulder when I noticed my contractor partner was staring at the ruins in horror. He was frozen. I shook him, and he snapped out of his stupor, quickly leaving the area with the rest of us. Once we were back at camp, it was pleasantly daylight the following morning. Several of us were chatting about the encounter at Camp Babylon before our daily operations briefing. It was then that I remembered the terrified expression on the face of the contractor, so I asked him about it. He was still obviously traumatized by the event, but managed to explain that, as we were leaving our position on the sandy hill, he saw a tall, black figure standing beside the ruins. It was watching us as if we were looking at he, her, it. He said that he felt an instant wave of despair hit him and thought that he was going to die. He didn't remember leaving the area. His next memory was in the Humvee headed back to Kuwait. I now write nonfiction books about haunted places for Llewellyn Publishing and have visited hundreds of reputedly haunted spots, but I'll never forget the wailing figure at the ruins of Babel. It's also worth noting that when I was relating this story to some of our Pakistani employees at Camp Doha and Camp oh my goodness, I'm going to mispronounce that one, Arifgan, they were also quite horrified. One of them, a translator we called Artie, said that we had encountered a jinn, or a damned spirit, and that we were lucky to be able to tell the tale. I agree. And some of the replies are, paranormal activities happen more than you think. Some people label them as crazy and not real just because they come from another belief system that is not Christian. I'm from Haiti and I'm Catholic, but the amount of stories of ghosts that I have heard growing up were crazy. My dad used to work as a civil engineer to build roads in rural areas of Haiti. He told me many stories that he himself experienced or the inhabitants told him. I think the world is more than only 3 dimensions, that we are living beings are accustomed to ourselves. I think that's very true. There's a lot that we're not, may not be open to, may not be willing to be open to. Yeah. Another reply is, yo, bro, I'm also Pakistani. The moment I read Camp Babylon, I knew something was about to go down. According to urban legends, in Babylon, the people learned magic through the Djinns. They also used Djinns to cause corruption and mutiny. That's why there are a lot of Djinns still present there. People from all over the world used to travel there to learn magic. And in Baghdad, the Muslims were brutally slaughtered by the grandsons of Genghis Khan. And someone asks, why they're super late to the thread, but were the Muslims killed near Camp Babylon? What happens if a jinn catches you? Or do they try to control your mind? What happened to OP's comrade? Distance between the two places is over 50 miles, but it's said that the whole city was slaughtered and a river of blood used to flow through the city. Wiki. Siege of Baghdad claims that have been made that the Tigris ran red with the blood of the scientists and philosophers killed. So, if that's true or even remotely true, that's pretty, yeah, kind of crazy. Let's see if there's any other replies here. Most of them are just asking about his books and stuff, which is cool. Great storytelling, mate. I encountered something similar in Morocco a few years ago. Also, I would love to read your books. See, a little bit of publicity is not bad. It's no wonder. Iraq is Babylon. They worshipped their ruler as God or Baal, an ancient demon. I'd like to hear more about paranormal experiences American soldiers have had. I saw a show where one guy was terrorized by an ancient demon in the form of Raven. He had to clean out Saddam's torture chambers, and that demon attached to him came back to America. It was a paranormal show for Travel Channel based on true stories. That sounds actually pretty freaking interesting, honestly. So let's move on to the next story. I had a recent encounter with what I believe was a jinn. I'd like to hear your thoughts. So last night when I was asleep, I woke up and was readjusting to get comfortable to go back to sleep when I saw it. I saw a black humanoid figure laying in my bed with its arms reaching out toward me. It scared me so badly I jumped and fell out of my bed, caused me to injure my foot a little bit. Now, I definitely felt a presence, but it was willing to accept that it was maybe my imagination. But later today, while I was home alone, the refrigerator opened by itself, opened all the way up and swung out. It was shut tight, and there was no window opening or air blowing. I believe this could have been a jinn. I am a Muslim, so I believe in jinns. I played a chapter of the Quran in my house. That's supposed to get rid of the house of jinns, so I'll see if anything else happens and keep you guys updated. Was just curious about your thoughts on the matter. Do you think I'm going crazy? And the replies are thus. I wouldn't say crazy. Have you done anything that would attract spirits or touched anything out of the ordinary? Someone else suggests look up sleep paralysis. You're not crazy. I've seen something similar myself, either jinn or shadow person. If it starts getting more active with moving things and opening doors, then I would lean more towards jinn. And if that's the case, you are doing the right thing by going to scripture. Not sure what effect scripture has on a shadow person, though. They are like observers. They mostly just watch you. They will stay there watching you until you either take your eyes off them or try moving closer and they disappear. I have heard that though giving them instructions will actually help, like telling them to go somewhere or do something. I don't know what the implications that might have. Yeah, I don't know that I'd be comfortable telling. I mean, yeah, until you know more about it. Then this person suggests sprinkle some salt around everywhere. Works against all kinds of spirits. With your demon visitor, you will find and channel your inner light with a protective force field. It sounds like BS, but it works. Remember the Dementors in Harry Potter and the Patronus? It's kind of like that, mixed with a dash of Care Bears crossed with Sailor Moon. We all have an inner light, and the dark forces want to stifle it. You look straight at that effort and say the absolute conviction, in your head works too as long as it's directed at the demon. I'm better and stronger than you. I have Allah and the angels on my side. You can't touch me. You have to believe what you say is true. Our light binds them when it shines brightly. Blinds them when it shines brightly. Your human eyes won't see it, but you'll feel it. I know I sound crazy, but have faith and stay strong. The demon may get frustrated and try to scare you, but don't back down. Someone else says, I think you had a bad dream. That's possible. You have to, take into consideration all possibilities. Well, things moving on their own is normal when it comes to paranormal activity. You're probably not crazy. Tell it to go away. Just don't play music. Sometimes telling something to leave is all it takes. It shows that you're not there to take crap from entities. People often report ghostly noises in their kitchens, cupboards slamming and people walking. I have a theory that ghosts, or djinns, or fairies, are just hungry. I was reading in the past in Europe they used to leave food out for fairies, gnomes, elves. Different places have different names for them. And the fairies would protect the house. If you were bad, though, they would cause trouble. People don't leave food out anymore, and all we have these kitchen ghosts, so maybe they're just hungry. It's a funny theory. Not saying it's true. And the reply was, actually, it's not just a funny story. In my country and a lot of other countries nearby still believe in feeding ghosts to keep them calm. It is a very old tradition, but people still believe in it up until now. And you are also right about bad things that will come to bad people, as they tend to attract negative energy to them. It's called karma. I'm from Vietnam, and the tradition is very similar to the Hungry Ghost Festival that the Singaporeans explained. I believe most of the countries in Southeast Asia follow the tradition, which is done to show your respect to the ancestors or anything in the spiritual world. I think when you show your respect, they won't touch you. See? There you go. That's all anybody ever wants, even in past lives, apparently. This may sound weird, but when I was a child, I believed in fairies completely. If I lost something, I would leave food out for them and ask them to get my lost items back from the pesky pixies. I'd leave the food unattended, and then I'd find my item. Once my TV broke, and I sprayed fairy dust on it and kept asking the fairies over and over to fix it. Out of the blue, it turned on. I think this is adorable. I used to look for fairy homes, fairy clothes, fairy rings of mushroom circles as a child. I don't know why I never thought of feeding them or even talking to them. Maybe that's why I never found any. This feeding the ghost fairies thing seems to have some merit. This may come across as ignorant, and I'm sorry if it does, but what is your definition of jinn? I may be confusing it with something else. And the reply there is, in Islam, we believe that God created three beings: angels made of light, jinns made of fire, and humans made of clay. Also, humans aren't supposed to see jinns in their true form. They usually take the form of a human or animals. They feed on negative emotions to hurt humans. Think of them as demons. They're not necessarily evil. Some of them are actually good. If you've got more questions, I'd be happy to answer. That's really interesting. I find religion intriguing, but you can't really ask questions to a lot of them because they'll get offended. Humans made of clay reminds me of the Jewish golem folklore. I seem to remember jinns being a trickster kind of being who tricks you into believing you could have every desire while sucking the life out of you, but I don't remember where that came from. I am intrigued by this. And some more replies. So, do even the good jinns simply exist or run off of negative or depressed emotions? Is there another reason to explain good genies or jinns? They misspelled it. I'm not very familiar. In Islam, we believe the jinns are the same reason humans were, or made the same reason humans were, to worship God. If there were bad people, there were bad jinns, and vice versa. So good jinns worship God and carry on with their lives. I may not have chosen the good words, But I was meant by feeding on negative emotions is that you become more vulnerable when feeling sad or angry. They like to scare people around. I think that's true with a lot of paranormal, supernatural stuff. They're going to feed on what's there. And whether you can help it or not, it may not be your fault that you have such negative or whatever emotions. Some people we're just built that way. But I think that has a lot to do with it. Being more emotionally open or vulnerable, I guess is the better term, probably invites and elicits more response. Yeah. A hypnotic state is a state of consciousness that you experience when waking up. Essentially, waking up with a depressed frontal lobe, some extreme sleep inertia. If you wake up in this state, just out of REM sleep, your mind will have a hard time processing the change that powerful imagery from your dream can bleed into your waking state. If you notice a recurring theme is only happens when waking up, then it's probably just a hypnotic state. If it happens some other times of the day, then you've got something else going on. Now, there's another take on it, see? That kind of thing happened to me lately too. It's not based in the kitchen though. I ignored it and maybe it's gone. I haven't been bothered in a week or so. What attracts a djinn to a person? Because this certainly isn't the first time. I found the best thing to do is to ignore them until they find something better to do. My house is not haunted and I have a very pleasant energy, which is one of the reasons we bought it. So it's not to say that, but doors have been opening and rattling, a light bulb exposed, and a broken music box began to play at the same time as the exploded light bulb. I wasn't frightened for some reason. I was just like, oh, okay, well, that shouldn't have happened. So I made a video of the music box before it turned off, changed the bulb, and went back to what I was doing before. And the reply would be, what attracts a jinn to a person? That would be possession if a jinn gets into the person's head. The person might be ill, violent, very angry, and when religion verses are cited to them, they get agitated or angry. To get rid of this, an exorcism is performed. Otherwise, instead of possession, a jinn may follow a person. This person might have a really bad actions, incidences, or occurrences happening all in his or her life. Something like no matter what they do, things keep falling apart. What we kind of call curses. Jinn are attracted to empty, abandoned, or desolate settlements or areas. When people move in, they will get out, since they don't really like the humans. But if they are stubborn, they will stay and bother humans that come there temporarily or permanently. Might explain why so many of the haunted places are uninhabited. And the last one here is Muslim here. From what you described, it does seem like a jinn. You should pray in your house and read the Quran. This will thwart any malevolent jinn out there. Many Muslims play Quran readings, pray, or keep a copy of the Quran in the house when they move to a new house. This is normally done to remove all traces of negativity and bad entities that have been existed with the previous tenants, owners, etc. Before you go to sleep in your bed, recite the last 3 chapters of the Quran. This is supposed to stop evil from terrifying you in your sleep. You can also recite the verse of the chair, and there are many other supplications too, some short and some a bit lengthy. Hope everything goes well. So we're going to end the video on that one. Let me know what you think in the comments. Hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.